Hi, everybody. I'm Stacey Gualandi, the host of the Women's Eye podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Not only does the Women's Eye highlight ordinary women doing extraordinary things, we also want to help women build their money power. Now, this episode of our Building Money Power series is brought to you by CASCO Financial Group in Phoenix, Arizona. CASCO's president, Catherine Scrivano, started her business to help people create the financial strength to achieve their dreams. And Catherine joins me. Hello. You're right here with me
Hey,
today from
great to see
Phoenix.
you. Yep.
Well, we're basically going to be talking all things retirement and the challenges that women face. So I guess when it comes to retirement, all men and women are not created equal. Now, is this true? And why is retirement planning so much more challenging for women?
It is true. And of course, what we're talking about are statistics. So it's not going to apply to each and every individual, but there are certainly trends to pay attention to. Women have some unique challenges when we're doing retirement planning. One of them is that we have longer lifespans. Generally, we outlive our male counterparts. So whatever money we're talking about to support our lifestyle has to last longer. And at the same time, statistically, we earn less through our lifetimes. So chances are very good that we're going to have to make less money last longer. And that is a true challenge. A lot of reasons for that. Women right now, I think that the statistics indicate that we earn about 83 cents for every $1 of our male counterparts.
Still,
Still, well,
2024.
that's progress, but we're not there yet. We're at a long way to go. The other thing is that women tend to be the ones in families who will take time out of their careers for family caregiving. Maybe it's children, maybe it's elderly parents or our spouse's elderly parents, but it's very common for a woman to interrupt her career, which is going to affect her Social Security benefits or her ability to save throughout her lifetime for these long-term goals. So all of those things, while not insurmountable, do need to be considered as we talk about retirement planning for women.
Now, does retirement mean different things to different people, or is it
Absolutely.
okay? So it's not just
Yeah,
working into older age, it really has something to, it means something different for everybody.
it does. And we kind of like to take the word retirement out of the mix and talk about financial independence.
Aha.
Um,
Is
I
retirement
think,
have kind of a bad connotation or
well,
something? Or
it sort of implies that you're going to come to a full stop. And I've not yet met a retiree who comes to a full stop. They
yeah.
spend their time and their money differently than they did when they were working. But a lot of times people retire from their careers and go right back into working at something that they just really enjoy, where the paycheck is not necessarily the motivator. We have a client in our practice who retired from a high stress, high tech career and went to work part-time in a quilt shop that she frequented, making minimum wage and loving it because she spent her time surrounded by people who enjoyed the same thing she did.
Yes.
So
Quilts. I mean, it's like a passion project,
yeah,
that's
exactly. Her
eventually.
her artistic outlet and spending the time doing things that she wanted to do. So there are a lot of stories like that. I was yesterday with the CEO of a pretty notable retirement community here in Phoenix, a senior living community. And she said one of her greatest compliments is when family members complain that their parents don't have time for them because there's too much going on. And she
I
said
love
that just
that.
makes her so happy
Yeah,
that
you're like,
folks are
Mom, I
so
really want to
interested.
see you. And
Yeah,
they're like, I'm busy, I'm
that's
working.
right. Yeah, we got pickleball. Call me later. So the word retirement again kind of does imply a hard stop, though that's not the experience of most people. There are so many things to consider. One of them being that the first day of retirement is probably not going to look like the last day of retirement. We spend money, our resources and our priorities change. And things are different from early in retirement until the end of our lives. And we really should be planning for those what if scenarios.
Yeah, and certainly, at my age, I'm not ready for full on retirement with no work whatsoever. I love having stuff to do, but I don't think I could ever work full time again. But I
Mhm.
also don't ever see myself not doing what I'm doing now.
Well, I shared with you a while back my favorite quote. I wish I could attribute this because I've used it so often, but a definition of retirement being when work is optional and leisure is affordable.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
I'm
Just
gonna
the
I'm gonna
just
put
the
it on a
idea.
sweatshirt.
Okay, make two, will you please? Because I'd like to have one as well.
Exactly.
But I think that's a lovely goal to aspire to. So you notice work is not taken out of the equation completely. Perhaps work is still meaningful and something that you want to do, but it's by choice.
Well, now, so what's really the first step then for people? Obviously, get someone like yourself to help in terms of maybe start planning at an earlier age. But what are really the first steps that somebody needs to look at?
The very first step is to picture the ideal retirement. How are you going to spend your time? And then we back into that with what will it cost to be able to spend your time doing that. So I always tell folks to pretend like today is the first day of your retirement. What what will you be doing? And who will you be doing it with? Also, what considerations are there for other folks? Do you have a partner and you need to talk with them about that? There may be some compromise involved. That's kind of a tough conversation sometimes the first time it takes place. The earlier the better, I think, is to be able to realize where compromises might need to be made. But all of these values and lifestyle conversations and considerations can be translated into dollars. And that's where we need to be figuring out what does the money need to be doing between now and then after actual retirement.
And what do you do when you do have if you're part of a couple, I suppose. When you talk about compromise, so what are the parameters there, do you think? Or what do you see
Yeah,
as
this is where
potential problems?
yeah, well, I sometimes color outside the lines and find myself doing marriage counseling or something. That's
Oh,
not my training. However, I can tell from experience what other couples have done. Very common is one who wants to travel like crazy and the other one who wants to stay home and do things, that they've been putting off close by. And so sometimes we can make suggestions about compromising either in time or resources, or perhaps we just tell them to divide and conquer.
conquer.
The one who wants to travel, you should go send postcards and tell the other one what it was like when they got back. So it's not so much that we are guiding them to conclusions, but we may be raising topics that have been completely taken for granted until somebody asks the question. And that can be real stimulating and enlightening, hopefully not adversarial.
Exactly. Yeah, because sometimes you're just not even thinking about this. And then when you
Yeah.
do start to focus on it, that's when the issues probably
Mhm.
arise, I imagine too. But what are some of the questions, I guess, because I know before you really start diving in with it, but what other questions do you have to kind of ask yourself? I'm sure about expenses, how many years retirement may last, because
Right.
what are they saying? Like the person born now will potentially be 150 years old,
Yeah.
or live to
Yeah.
150,
Yeah.
so I kind of wonder about that, thinking, what do you do when you're.
Well, we have to acknowledge we don't have a crystal ball. None of us knows, what the last day will be, but we can think about things like lifestyle. Do we smoke? Do we exercise? Do we have good eating habits? Do we have good genetics? We can
Yeah.
look to our family members and get some clues there. It's not preordained, but all of that kind of information can be helpful in estimating how long the money needs to last. And it can be a very uncomfortable consideration because we're really talking about the end of life. but we just have to acknowledge that it is a fact. And that as we design the plan, we're certainly not saying, okay, you get to live this number of years and no further than that. But we design the what if you live a certain number of years. The other thing that I encourage people to be very realistic about is healthcare expenses, potential for long-term care.
Long-term care, yes.
This is definitely a women's issue. Women tend to have more health issues later in life.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
oh, yeah, yeah. And long-term care facilities are typically filled with women. We tend to outlive our male counterparts. And if we need help going to these kinds of facilities, it's a very expensive proposition. So thinking about what that would cost and what alternatives there might be, whether it's family members or group living, just a variety of things. There's a lot of solutions, but decisions being made during the time that it's needed are never going to be as well thought out, well prepared as those that were considered well in advance. So that's part of the retirement process. It sounds like I'm just talking about the hard stuff. Believe me, retirement planning is really fun, but we do need the reality checks too, especially again for women.
Yeah. What did you call retirement again? The other, I guess, a little euphemism or maybe a better term for
Oh,
it.
just talking about independence,
Financial
just having,
independence.
yeah,
Okay. I
doesn't
love
doesn't
that.
necessarily mean you're fabulously wealthy. Uh, the goal is probably just that you're going to be able to make choices and not having to drudge through a job that we don't care to, we're unhappy or only working for the paycheck for survival. What a wonderful position to be in, to say the 24 hours I'm assigned this day, I'm going to spend the way I choose. If that
Yeah.
includes work, fine. If not, that's okay too.
That's the other thing too. It all just depends on how you want to define your
Yeah.
retirement. But that's great. And if you've worked 9 to 5 your whole life, and then if you just want to be surrounded by quilts the
Darn it.
rest of your
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
then go for it. Right.
Yeah.
So
And remembering again that we look at the lifespan of retirement, we kind of break it up into chunks, early retirement to the end of retirement. Many people retire from their jobs and start helping children and grandchildren, maybe picking up kids after school, that kind of thing. That's a lovely way to spend your time, and it's finite. They won't be in school forever
ever.
unless you keep having more and more grandchildren.
Exactly. But
Chances are
that's a
good you can
full-time
make that
job in and
commitment.
of itself.
Sure, sure.
That's
But
great.
as I talk about some of the weaknesses or the negative things, I do want to make sure that we understand that when women undertake this task to be doing the planning, to do investing toward fulfilling their goals, et cetera, again, statistically, we outperform our male counterparts. We have
Really?
women tend to be more thoughtful, less impulsive. I think that would be a better way to say it.
Hmm.
So they're not going to go chase a hot stock. They're going to be very thoughtful, be strategic, do a lot of research so that when they make decisions, they tend to be very well thought out and they can stick to the plan.
That's
As
amazing.
opposed to men tend, again, this is just statistically, but men tend
Okay.
to be a little bit more competitive. So the goal may not be to reach the ultimate financial goal. It may be to outperform the guy sitting next to me at work.
That's
So
that's amazing.
yeah, there's all kinds of great studies that consistently show that when men and women undertake this specific endeavor, women tend to outperform. They tend to be later in starting, which is obviously something that I would like to cure. I want everyone to start right now.
Start early.
Yesterday
Yes.
was the best day, but the second best day would be today. And
Yes.
encourage women to just have the confidence to do it. Another thing that women tend to do more than men is work with advisors and recognize that perhaps they are spread very thin already, and taking on this task, which requires a lot of education and plowing through all the jargon, et cetera.
Right.
They might be better served by having someone on their team that can help them structure and create and implement the plan.
Yeah,
And
and it might be something that seems a little intimidating or scary, but they might find themselves really into it.
yeah, if you find the right relationship, if you find the right advisor relationship, and I can't stress enough how critical that is. If it doesn't feel comfortable, if you don't feel heard, if you don't feel like your priorities and values are being honored, move on. Somebody else will do the job for you. But again, statistically, women tend to do that more than men, and it's one of the indicators and one of the things that contributes to our success. So want to make sure we end on a high note.
Yes. Exactly. And even though women maybe tend to not be as impulsive, we just have to also, we know how you feel about retail therapy.
Yeah, don't go
So
shopping.
don't go shopping. So
That
I'm
won't
like,
fix it.
oops, I guess I got to look in the mirror myself. So,
No, but
well,
more stuff does
more
not
stuff.
contribute
I know
to our success.
that's also going to go on a sweatshirt too. So, well, Catherine, thank you so much for all of these wonderful tips. Basically understanding the challenges women face when it comes to retirement, the first steps that you have to do, and then the questions that you really need to ask yourself, and then start the planning early. Right?
Right. Sooner the better.
Sooner the better. Well, thank you so much. Now, Catherine Scrivano has so many financial facts, and to find out more about her, you just go right to thewomenseye.com. And there you'll also find our books. We've got 20 Women Change Makers. Just shop wherever you buy books and at changemakersbook.com. And 20 Women Storytellers at womenstorytellersbook.com. I better get that right. So don't forget, you can subscribe to our newsletter and our YouTube channel. Again, thank you, Catherine, and to
Great seeing you.
you too, and to all of you for tuning in to the Women's Eye Podcast. Keep building your money power. I'm Stacey Gualandi. Remember, it's the world as we see it.